opposition leaders brutalized at the hands of the security agencies. Although the Kawempe chaos transpired in broad daylight, in full view of cameras, and somehow the blame is being placed on the battered victims, while perpetrators are being heaped with praises, and this by none less than the commander of the defense forces himself.
Careful one would have known the political implication of doing what he does.
Him, or the father is telling him, and the man is going, just acting in a very weird manner.
Doesn't he know what his son is doing as a commander and chief?
He's now using the new position of CDF.
Ministers are up in arms, blaming the violence on the National Unity Platform in an election some in the halls of power considered small, and yet its loss has them running to the temples of justice.
The party totally rejects the results of the Kawempe North constituency that was declared by the Electoral Commission. The party instructs its lawyers to immediately challenge the results of the by-election and file an electoral petition.
NUP says it's ready to tussle it out with the NRM in court, witness that their candidate was harassed and assaulted right from the last day of the campaigns.
I challenge you to go to court, Todong and NRM, because that will give us an opportunity to also present our evidence of what you did here in this particular election.
If what transpired in Kawempe is a preview of the 2026 general election, Uganda could be in for a bloodiest election year in its history. Could we do a reset before then, or is it too late to turn the tide?
The truth. Who is telling the lie? Who stole whose vote? What does Kawempe mean to the general election politics of the country? But above all, will the president's letter and the demand by the NRM further complicate the complex issues surrounding Kawempe North? As we speak, Nalukola, who was declared winner in this controversial and bloody election, is yet to be sworn in nor gazetted. What are the stakes? My name is Simon Kagwanjala, and tonight I'm joined by Dr. Sarah Birete, a civil society activist and political analyst, together with Honorable Fred Mukasa Mbidde, the Vice President of the Democratic Party, with Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, Deputy President, National Unity Platform for Buganda and Member of Parliament for Butambala, and Honorable Farida Nambi, the lady who is now at the center of this controversial election. Good evening. Honorable Nambi, nice to see you, and you must be joining us for the first time.
No, apparently not.
Okay,
this is
on the front line. Nice to have you back.
Thank you.
How do you walk with the head high after going through a bloody election where your name is invariably mentioned as having held a flag for a party that is being accused of brutalizing, buying voters and stuffing?
I would like to say thank you to Next Media, NBS TV, for this opportunity to host me this evening. I am the candidate, NRM candidate, Kawempe North constituency, and I fully participated, that's true. I had a very warm campaign season. I am a second-time candidate. As you know, 2021, I happened to be the NRM flag bearer for Kampala Woman MP. I want to thank the people of Kawempe North, because what my experience in 2020, 2021 was totally different with the kind of welcome that we received in 2025 in this by-election. So I'd like to start to thank them for that, and also to thank them because as of today, EC has formally communicated to me to tell me that I got 9,058 votes.
Sorry?
9,058 votes.
But
from
the declaration was
8,000
7,000.
From the 8,593 votes that they had earlier on communicated. So I want to thank the people of Kawempe North for the support and to tell them that the struggle continues.
I want to get back to the question.
Yes.
Do you walk with your head high after all the reports of violence, ballot stuffing, pre-ticked ballots, and the huge cash investment?
As a candidate, I hold my head high because I fully participated. It takes a lot of courage to stand and to get support, to pass through the campaigns and get support. For all those things that you mention, I would say that I have nothing to do with them. Me as a candidate, I participated and I was supported right from the campaign to the election day. So I wouldn't know why I should not hold my head high. I participated. It's difficult to participate. I was like, we were two women amongst several men. So I personally hold my head high that I was able to go through the campaigns and go through
As I get to Honorable
day.
Muwanga Kivumbi, some of the sticky questions rotate around ballot stuffing. There were a number of NRMs who were seen on the eve of the election participating in the ticking of ballot papers. Do you think this was done in your favor?
I have no comment absolutely about that. You had your cameras. I don't know what you saw. If you have evidence, then you can join me as we go to court. Because for me, I have my own reasons why I think we should go for electoral reforms to help us shape the future. Our electoral reforms will help us shape the future, especially that we're going to a general election.
Ms. Nabi, do you think your vote was stolen?
First of all, I voted from Kawempe Mbogo Playground. That's where I voted from with my husband. I voted at about 10 something. I voted properly. I left the station. And I started now hearing that the security has been beefed up in that area. There are some people pelting stones from the compound of one Mr. Takuba. There's a compound behind. There's also a road next to their fence. So there were people pelting stones from that place to some of the security forces. And then the reaction was that security started beefing up around that area, and that there were actually members seen in the middle of the field where the electoral area was demarcated. Later on, at about 4, it was like 2 minutes past 4, one of my supervisor for that point alerts me that some group has come. They passed and jumped the boxes. So now the security started chasing those that had jumped the boxes and run. Then after, there was another group that came and started kicking the boxes, and they had filmed for me some things to see on my phone. Now, after about 30 to 35 minutes, they were not only electing me that day. We had a councillor in Angola called Councillor Masuti. He was also being elected. He was a candidate on that day, plus other candidates from other parties. He also tells me where I voted from in Angola Central. Still, what has happened in Bogo has happened here. Then the third point was Uganda. So that's when I got into a vehicle to physically go to see what had actually happened. And it was tight security, and it was just a mess. They were still picking up the pieces. We happened to actually have taken some election materials as exhibits, which we turned over to police, and they're now in hands of the police. So really that's what happened. And for me as a candidate, for someone to target where I voted from, they had started counting the second box, and to mess up the whole votes that had been voted, for someone to target Councillor Masuti, because you see, they had, in Kazangola, they had counted votes for Lugova, they had counted votes of Corner Zone, but now Central, where Councillor Masuti voted from, and you'd really feel targeted as a candidate. We felt automatically targeted. We were like, who could have come to do this? And I don't mind whether it's from either aisle, whoever did that. We felt targeted, and we felt like we want to seek justice. Why was it that they did not destroy some polling stations in Kazangola, sorry, in Komambog, where neither me or Masuti
Ms. Nambi, I want to move on.
Yeah.
Do you concede defeat?
I wouldn't concede defeat under those circumstances. Like, I wouldn't. And that's why I would wish that moving forward, and this benefits every candidate who is standing all over the country, you wouldn't feel comfortable if even what you voted for was not counted, would you? So for me, that's why I want to seek justice, me as Nambi.
Thank you. Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, as Deputy President of Buganda, your party president tasked you to deliver a 96% victory for Narukola in Kawempe North. You got a paltry 17,000 votes. Do you want to celebrate that victory?
But before that, let me help my, I have a lot of relationship with her. She's the daughter of Haji Moses Tugongo from Butambala. But also we share this on the mother's side. We are all from Chitimba, and that's where her mother and my mother hail from. And I've just learned about it today. While she asked me about my mother, I said, how do you know my mother? Then she told me, Chitimba. And so let me help you, Hajat. I was physically at Imbogo. I get a call from Honorable Simbwa at about 10 minutes to the close of polling that the situation is building up at Imbogo, and I needed to reinforce them. So I drove and went to Mbogo. By the close of polling, I was at Imbogo. But that told me at about 15 minutes to close of polling, there was increased security detail, including armored personal carriers, mambas, and every other form of but also amidst that were deployments of thugs, okay? What we commonly call chiefs. But also in presence was Honorable Balam.
So who commanded the chiefs?
I'm now going to give you a full story I'm an eyewitness of what happened at Imbogo. Now, you remember in the morning, vehicles that parked inside the football pitch, they were all chased away and told to park past the mosque in the parking lot, and that's where I think you parked to go and vote. Now, that field had 5 or 6 polling stations. 5 polling stations. Now, at the time of when polling closed, counting started properly. Well until, and the process of counting is when people leave their homes to go and see how they voted. So a huge crowd had built up around Imbogo to witness the counting. Now, the army at that polling station began to chase away the crowd and cordoned off the whole place. During that fight, that fracas, with the army chasing away, people are people. Now, thugs had also penetrated that crowd. They began, and I will be honest with you, those thugs were the chiefs deployed by Balaam and Mr. Kamanda, the minister. Now, they began to hit the army with stones to justify the continued brutality on the people who had assembled.
Are you sure they were chiefs?
I was there. I'm not telling you a story. Now, at that time, the army had rounded off all journalists in the middle of a peak and told them, none of you can lift a camera, not even a phone. So all the journalists and civil society witnesses, I was there with Chris. You know Chris of NGO Forum? I was there with Farida. You know Farida? Lule. All those they were election observers. So what happened? They were there. I was there with them. So what happened? Later on, 4 members descended on that football pitch, and they took positions from all directions. And then a group that came from a corner where Balaam was standing, some very tall men, and with masks, not uniformed, first descended on one polling station where they had started, almost finished counting. And I can tell you what you got on that box. 260 was for Nalukolo. You had 20. Because counting had started.
Farida had 20.
Had 20. Nalukolo had 260. Because I was there. So that's the first polling station where thugs attacked and disrupted. The army pretended to be as if it was chasing those thugs and protected them and pushed them off the football pitch. Counting was continuing in all other centers, all other polling stations. What happens now, by that time Mr. Kabanda arrives with another huge gang of people. She stood where Balaam was. A negotiation took place between the commander of now whatever, not the police.
And you were witnessing?
I'm a witness. A negotiation took place between the commander and Balaam. And they later, by that time the police had been overpowered. It was no longer in charge. So that group now descended on the rest of other polling stations and kicked. This group was from a corner where Mr. Kawanda was and Balaam. The army pretended as if they are chasing, they were protecting them and escorting them after that disruption. The Electoral Commission, then the situation was so difficult that the journalists had now been escorted out of the football pitch completely and told the police leave. Actually, police, the group wanted to descend on civil society and other observers. The police had to put a security ring even that's how I got protection, that to put a security ring. So that's what happened in Mbogo. The Electoral Commission had no choice, was to cancel that polling center. Now, immediately they finished disrupting that, the same group escorted by the armored vehicles and the drones and all those gangs, they descended to Kazangola after Mbogo and did the same thing.
Do you have any record of this?
I'm an eyewitness. If people want to go to court, I'll be there. And not in a bad faith. She's my relative to some extent. I'll be there. So that's what happened. So the disruption of the polling. Later on, I was called at happy hours. There's a school around Mbogo. Still, the group had descended to do the disruption. There had been a dispute because they had balt staffed. But those that were used to tick, did a very short job. So around 400 ballots were destroyed because they had ticked, I think, in panic. And they were all poured in once in that polling station. So what took place? Deliberately, my sister, with all our background, is that it shouldn't be associated with that mess.
Okay, I'll get back to you with the question that I wanted to pose, but let me give Honorable Mbidde a chance. Honorable, there are accusations and counter accusations from all sides. How do we sieve through the mess and the kind of information that is coming. The president on one part is blaming the opposition is blaming NRM, NRM is disassociating itself from the mess.
I think I can give credit to the NRM for the bravery with which they can maintain such a debate before media houses, calculated to create a possibility, a figment of a possibility that actually they were injured in the process. I also clearly, of course, sympathize with my sister here. You know, she has got a supporter at home. My wife incidentally supports her. And that is the kind
Your wife is NRM?
I have not yet inquired, but she supports her. because there is completely no politics at home. So I will make that inquiry, Simon, and I promise I will return with an answer. But I can sympathize with our sister here for purposes that she has been conditioned to think. If we are to place it within the proximity of ordinary understanding, she has been conditioned to think that a short man is actually a boy. That every short man you see is a boy. And there is a very big problem. I can equally guarantee, I think my piece of advice I can give you is that please don't invest a lot of hopes in any possibility of a viable election petition. Election petition is, Simon, are guided by majorly two major precincts, two major limbs. Either there was an act, an election offense, or irregularities. And with irregularities, it is wider. There must be a capability or a possibility that the irregularities conducted can substantially have affected, of course, the results. Now, the irregularity they are trying to build, and I am happy that my brother here is pushing it to counting of votes. Because the irregularity contemplated under the Act is in terms of having the capacity to definitely injure the possibility of voting. But how many voters were at that polling station? Commensurate with the total votes that were cast. To the extent that then, if my sister believes that any interruption of voting was an interruption of votes related to her own enjoyment, because clearly all evidence points to the fact that wherever people voted, she didn't win. Now, except if she wanted to imply that by way of surprise, she was meant to win the very polling stations that received some kind of cataclysm. I think they should allow you to rest and begin to think about, first of all, it was a brave measure that anybody, NRM, would compete in that constituency.
Honorable, you're sounding preemptive to the intention to have an inquiry, as the president has intimated. I think the inquiry is born out of good faith.
Who is inquiring? What is the veracity of the person inquiring? The truthfulness of that person that commences the inquiry.
No, it's not the first time. Take, for instance, I thought this would be, you would sigh with relief that finally government is bowing into the demand for an audit into an election.
I have got a very strong opinion against government continuing to keep us under the debate of what happened in Kawempe North. Because clearly the protagonist was government. We can exonerate her for purposes that she was only a conduit. She was an instrument of operation against NUP. Unintendedly. She was used as a clog. She was clothed in a lion's skin.
That's very unfair to her. She
that is why,
of a sound mind.
Yes, but the soundness of mind should be measured continuously. If she lands herself in a court, then the soundness of mind, of course, obviously receives questions. But we would have left it at the, because, of course, at the commencement of her submission here, she has actually been tipped that she got some more votes after the final declaration of results. So I don't know which algorithm is being used, that the calculations are still continuous. I don't know, by the time we are done with this show, probably she would have acquired close to 170,000 votes. So I think our sister here needs to be guided. When you join politics at this level, and particularly the kind of politics with filth that obtained in Kawempe North, I think you are not the appropriate instrument. You leave them to play.
Thank you. Sarah.
Yes, please.
Normally, elections come with a lot of violence, and a few days later, an election goes. Does it really bother you that this election has endured? A week later, we're still discussing the same subject?
Yeah, first, Simon, not every election should come with violence. This is the abnormal situation in Uganda.
But it's the norm.
And we shouldn't. We should keep calling it abnormal because we do observe elections elsewhere and they are not like Ugandan elections. So it's abnormal, although it's recurrent. We should keep reminding citizens that this is abnormal. So the debate in Kawempe, even if there was no petition or attempts of NRM petition, in my view, we would still debate Kawempe as a precursor for 2026, which is a few months away. So we are going into a general election where you expect that everybody is ready for that process because the nominations are a few months away. August, special interest groups nominations are July, June. So we are just a few months away from the general election. So when you see the kind of violence, especially by the army, the kind of violence by the army, where the president is directly liable and answerable to the citizens as the commander-in-chief, and then you see the route that he's taking, which is very bothering to us as election observers, because for the president to write to Bazukulu, meaning his grandchildren, a generation younger than us, saying he doesn't know why there was such heavy-handedness of the army. The Constitution names him as a commander-in-chief of the Defense Forces. He should, by the time he wrote, he should have had a report from the CDF, a report from the Army High Command. He should have even punished the people responsible for the violence in Kawempe. Then he comes to the citizens and say, I was bothered with the high-handedness of the military in Kawempe, and I took the following measures. For the other agencies which are not directly under him, then he can say, I'm waiting for reports. But when the president writes as if he's not in charge, I want to know why there was the army there, why is the army involved in a civilian activity?
Yeah, but look, here is the president saying the heavy deployment of security forces may have stopped mass violence.
You see, as a commander-in-chief, he shouldn't be guessing. That's exactly my point. May is guesswork. He doesn't know what happened. He should have come with a definite explanation.
More the reason why he's calling for an inquiry.
Yeah, but now he's calling as an inquiry, Simon, as a third party. Yet legally, he's the head of the army. He should have done his homework and explained to the people why we're about 30 members in Kawempe. Why you,
and the inquiry information, the inquiry should not be electoral or even political.
No.
It must be an inquiry within the realm of the force, the illegalities and offenses committed by the forces.
Yes, he is answerable to Ugandans as far as the conduct of the army is concerned. He should have come with a response, explain why we saw Kawempe turn into a military zone. We saw many members,
a member for the first time running through a polling station. He should give us answers.
So
what
the
was
buck
it
stops
about?
with Museveni, the president.
Exactly.
But
On
at the same
conduct of
time,
the army.
the president is the chairman of the NRM, where Honorable Hajat Farida Nambi was a candidate for Kawempe North. Does she take part of the blame?
Simon, the president can ask for reports on other matters except the army, where is a commander-in-chief, direct command, where he should make calls, who has deployed the army, what is the issue, what is the security threat, why is the army beating journalists. He should have given us answers. On other issues, he can act as a chairman of the Electoral Commission, but not the army. As chairman of NRM party, sorry, but not the army. So the violation of citizens' rights in Kawempe, the buck stops with the president, because 80% of the confusion, right from nomination, was caused by the army. The JAT forces that bet up candidates, including the candidate of NUP, the disruption of rallies by NUP, the beatings of journalists, the arrest of journalists on voting day, was the army.
Is there any sense, okay, to what extent would you exonerate the opposition generally in the violence, in the mess that happened in the election?
You know, the Stockholm Syndrome, when you get so much used to oppression, you tend to blame the victims. But in a situation of high-handedness like we saw in Kawempe, what was the choice for the victims? Or what crime did they commit? I'm not aware of any. And I want to corroborate the report shared by Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi that it's true. Our colleagues were observing elections in Kawempe. They were at that station and they shared reports, including on social media, of what they observed. The people who disrupted counting at Imbogo were plain-clothed security officers with masks who did the chaos and ran back to the military for protection. So the question then that you should ask is, if these were strangers and thugs like the regime wants us to believe, why did the army protect them? Why?
Honorable Nambi, from your heart of hearts, having gone through the rigors of campaigning and going all over the place, door to door, do you still have the energy to pursue this matter any further, or you're under duress from the party?
Actually, I've already submitted that as a candidate, and it's not only me, there's also my colleague, Councillor Masuti, we feel that somebody targeted where we voted from. And to us, we want to seek justice. Yeah? And to the fact that there were votes that were not counted. For instance, I'll give you the votes very shortly that I had in Kazao, Angola. They had already tallied Lugoba and Kona zone. And the votes I have here is 1,874 votes versus 919 votes for NUP. That's what I have. Now, if
they had already tallied.
Yes, they had already tallied 13 polling stations. What was disrupted is Kazangola Central.
Did you have any DR forms?
We do have. And they will see them because we are going to court. They will see them. So we feel as candidates that we are targeted. What you should know, Councillor Masuti and I had put, you know, where you vote from, you really make sure that you put there a lot of effort. So Councillor Masuti saw the goons. I don't know whether they were the exact goons that came from Bogo, but they were also masked according to his and some pictures actually. Some people were quick enough to take some shots of the goons that came and disrupted Kazangola Central. They had already tallied 13 polling stations and 8 of Kazangola Central were not tallied. Now, my question is, as a candidate, why the polling stations we voted from?
Can I give you an answer?
Why the polling stations we voted from? So yes, you're going to come
okay,
in.
what if those votes were given to you? Would it add anything?
what if they would make a difference? We feel targeted and we want justice. Not only me, who you see here, next time probably invite Councillor Masuti. We have these DR forms, copies of them. Yeah? So we feel that nobody should stop us from seeking justice to the courts, because that's a way, if courts say that even after all that, it is okay, that we would just move on and there would not be any election reforms, we would then know that we sought justice and this is the result.
What gives you the conviction
received.
that Kawempe was yours to lose?
The mere fact that somebody targeted, and I've told you, whether it's someone from NRM or it's someone from the opposition, must answer to it.
Okay, there are two people.
And we are two candidates.
There are two people who are widely mentioned in the violence that ensued at the polling stations.
Yes.
Honorable Balam and Honorable Min Sakabanda. Their names have been widely mentioned. Do you associate with them?
They are ministers.
Yes.
In government, yes.
Yes.
Yes. And they came in to support, to canvass votes for the NRM party, because they are members of NRM. Okay? This vote was not particularly just about Nambi Farida. One, everywhere I went, I would tell the people that this is a mock exam for us as NRM. We are going to sit the final paper in 2026. So it was a larger election, really large. You saw there was the Prime Minister who also came in because she's a resident of Kawempe South. She came in to support. So it was a bigger election. And for us, we would not stop anybody as candidates to come in and try to offer support. And I think the same thing, that's how Honorable Muwanga happened to come from Butambala to support their candidate. That is all right. I also want to say that that is the premise. You may laugh at it, you may call us myopic, but we want to seek justice based on that. Because we feel as candidates...
Did it ever strike you that you would win Kawempe, that has been traditionally opposition?
I'll tell you frankly, we had a lot of support. I told you in the beginning that I'm a two-time candidate. I was lucky enough that Kawempe constituency as a whole, South and North, was one of my constituencies in 2020, 2021. I saw the resistance we received in 2020. It was not the same resistance. And here is, I'll tell you. Government had actually made inroads. It's like they never left those areas. There was an initiative called the Presidential Skidding Initiative. It's largely located in Kawempe South. This is Chikoni, Mulago, and Wandegea. I happened to be a guest at 4 graduations. And we were graduating not less than 700 graduates. Some from Kawempe North, others from the South, others from other parts of...
And they never voted for you?
No, I cannot say that. Even as I speak today, I have 9,558 votes. You, Simon, who has never stood, you would take that vote for granted.
I have stood before.
Okay, if you've stood, you would know that that vote cannot be taken for granted.
Was declared
in Kawempe North. In Kawempe North. So you can't, even if I'm NRM, you can't tell me that we did not have support. That would be a lie. Now, that is one initiative. I found that the president, through State House, had made another initiative called the Presidential Ghetto Fund. And their actual beneficiaries, like Amigo, Kawempe Mbogo, these are whatever. There is also this group in Chebando, the ghetto people who in Pentagon. Then, kindly, let me first finish
If you can give a minute, you're going to ask.
The third program, and I can tell you, people were hopeful because of these programs, and that's why, compared to 2020, 2021, I received, plus Councillor Masuti, because we were campaigning as NRM candidates, a warm campaign period that gave us hope as candidates, if you asked me, of an eventual win.
I find it weirdly magical that Electoral Commission is still tallying your results. and by this evening you're standing at 9,500. What are the chances that
Well,
by tomorrow you'll be
I'm
over
not a
10,000?
spokesperson of Electoral Commission. I would really wish that you called them and they tell you how that is possible.
So EC is telling you your votes are still rising.
Actually, that's not the point. As I stand today, that's what I've been told that I have.
First of all, there is what we call the functus official rule.
Yes.
That when the Electoral Commission makes a final declaration, its business is concluded.
Yeah. They cannot
In fact, if they are continuously communicating to you over results, and they are the persons you are going to sue before courts of law, you have just made us get a good record here. So we know that probably you're going to sue cohorts in what you intended to obtain. Number two, you see, Simon, stealing a drum is very easy. The problem is where to beat it from. Because you see...
No.
and
nobody has stolen any drum. No.
Because my sister here still continuously needs help. Because you are petitioning to obtain justice against who? Because it is your affirmation here, even here on TV, that you don't know succinctly what happened. You were told. For you, you voted peaceful and left. Now, the person is serving you with such information. First of all, find out the objective reasons that is making it a logical necessity for them to either inform or misinform you as such. Because that will be hearsay and generally not admissible before courts of law. Number two, if there was a disruption, in your opinion, by a person is unknown, how dare you even begin to think that it was in favor of any other party? Now, the kind of justice you are seeking before courts, have you included the particulars that took place against candidate Nalukola, for example, throughout the campaign process? Have you also indicated, so that now we know that you are a representative, you are the saint, trying to obtain justice for the whole preparatory processes of a campaign in Kawempe North?
She's seeking justice. Maybe.
Against who?
Against who?
So whoever stole her victory.
No, because you see, my sister needs to be helped. Otherwise, they are beginning to use you. You know, it's like trying to use a fully grown-up tree, but trying to fold it into a walking stick. And that is what they are trying to turn you into. Tell them you are grown up, you can no longer be a walking stick. You can't be folded. You are a very big tree that cannot be folded.
Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, as we speak, 1 week down the road, Honorable Nalukola has not been gazetted. Could this give you a sense that your celebration of a victory could be short-lived?
Yeah, we are waiting for tomorrow because ordinarily gazettes come out on Friday. We are waiting for because tomorrow is like the regular. But sometimes in terms of like by-elections, they can be issued a special gazette. So we are waiting for the regular period for which gazettes come up. And that is tomorrow, a few hours from now.
Share information on that. I did have a conversation with a spokesperson of EC a while ago. Actually, Section 58 of the Parliamentary Elections Act gives them 7 days for the returning officer to send the report to the EC. And once EC receives the report, they have 48 hours to gazette. So the deadline is Monday.
Okay.
So for us, we are like, in Uganda we say, werekere omulimba. Omulimba mwerekere mpaka jasula. So
the Nigerians say, if you are dancing with an enemy, never close your eyes. So you should dance while eyes are open.
So for us, we've done the hard journey. That journey was to overcome the brutality, the violence, the rigging, and now we are dealing with the propaganda.
But the outcome was dismal.
Yeah, but I spoke to one MP who attended the caucus. Imagine an NRM caucus when the president, with a brave face, said, you know, I'm going to, the whole caucus laughed at him. his own members.
When he said he's going to court.
He's going to court. Everyone in the caucus. And one MP told me, said, I don't know how this Museveni was when he was a young man. Because at 80 to tell a lie with a straight face, it's not easy for an old man to tell a lie with a straight face. So we will do everything we can, abide by the law, as we've done, and wait for Monday.
Honorable, you seem to be taking the president's letter with a lot of casualness. Yet the president seems to be very emphatic.
Try to tell you the truth, it's a joke.
He's not anywhere recognized under the law.
Yes, it's a joke.
On elections.
The president's letter is a joke. But it is intended. This joke, don't take it for granted. It is intended to create a scenario. And you know, this is the gentleman who went to address military officers and said that in the last election, in the district of Buganda, they stole 2 million votes. So this is not the first time that gentleman behaves in such a bizarre manner. With the straight face still, he was in an army combat, and I looked at him. He was saying, okay, here they stole 2 million votes.
I'm surprised you have the guts by there to speak now. When the Prime Minister herself, when she was here on Barometer, she said, you and Honorable Namuga were behind a scheme to, you printed ballot papers. You had printed ballot papers from Ginger, and you were planning to critique them.
From where?
So you embarrassed the NRM.
Where,
that was not Banja.
For which race?
But Simon, do you ever take Nabanja serious?
She's the Prime Minister
No, but
and leader of government.
Are you as uninjured as her to take her serious? So on some occasions, leave certain people to say what they ought